Right guys, I'm going to show you a little bit more of a walkthrough on DiceMaster specifically. So what I've done is I've gone and created a blank profile, so we're going to go through it from the beginning. So you can find DiceMaster's interface in two places. The first and easiest is going to be a small DiceMaster button on your minimap, which is a golden D with a small dice in the center of it. Or you can look at your actual interface from the game menu, click on DiceMaster, and the interface is here. DiceMaster also has all of these extra toggles that you can work with. You just have to press the plus button in order to show down the menu. So real quick, on this main page, you can enable or remove the minimap icon. You can change your UI scale. You can do all of these other things. I won't go through them all. You can hover over each one in order to determine what they do. I highly recommend that you select every single one of these in order to get the full experience. This is mostly because when we do full events, our DiceMaster uses a lot of the programs in the background, such as sound and using the banners and most specifically the chat typer. Um, Everybody who has DiceMaster can toggle on the enable typing tracker, which allows you to see when other people are typing. And this is one of the most beneficial tools of DiceMaster. Now, when you first install DiceMaster, you're going to get everything kind of in the center of your screen. It's really hard to manage and deal with. In order to fix that problem, simply go to the Unlock Frames button and you can click and drag it anywhere that you like on your screen. I would highly recommend that you mess with your UI scale at the same time so that you get things where you want them to be and they actually fit in those spaces. So, running down the list on the charges panel, you can adjust your health in the charges panel. They automatically start with 5 health, and you have your current health versus your maximum health. But you can also change this on the actual UI itself, and I'll get there in a minute. Another thing that you can enable is the progress bar. You want to go ahead and enable this, and if you are not the party leader, and the party leader does not have the progress bar enabled, or they aren't using it, then it won't show up on your screen. But if you are the party leader, or the party leader is using the progress bar for whatever reason, it'll show up on your screen. So you just want to always have that clicked just in case it is being actively used. And the progress bar can show anything. The default here is morale, but we've used it for simulating the time on a bomb, as well as the morale of the group, or how many supplies are in a cart when we're running through a chase sequence or something like that. So this is a highly versatile tool that we use for a lot of things. The next thing is your unit frames. You want to always make sure that you have the unit frames enabled, and you want to make sure that they are able to send talking heads as well as sound effects. Again, this is one of those background things that we as DMs use in order to make your experience more fulfilling. And lastly is profiles. You can automatically set or create profiles, transfer them over, copy them, kind of do what you want to do with them. So this is how I was able to create a new profile without losing all of the progress on my initial one. So, one of the things that DiceMaster is really good at is showing and hiding its panels, so that when you're out in an event, you don't have to actually have all of the DiceMaster components up on your screen. And that's just a small toggle on the minimap button. Left click to show it, left click to hide it again. So, first thing is first. This is the progress bar. Because I have it up, it is here and ready to go. And this is your player UI. This is where you will see your health. This is where you'll be able to roll, and these will be your main traits. DiceMaster calls them traits, we call them custom abilities. Take your pick on what you want to call them. And then up here you also have your unit frames. So when you are in an event and you're as a player, whenever a DM activates a unit frame with this little eyeball button, it'll show up on your screen. So you won't see it beforehand, but you will see it once it's enabled. And there are 6 unit frames that can be up at a single time. And you want to make sure that you're going to be able to see all of them during an event, because these are incredibly important. So when we actually go into the player unit frames themselves, we're going to be looking first at health. Now, whenever you scroll over an element in DiceMaster, they have little pop-up boxes that give you instructions. So here you can see that if you just left-click and right-click, you can add and remove health. Pretty simple. And then if you left-click, you can set your shift left-click, you can set your max HP, which for us is always going to be 10, unless it's modified by some other thing. And then you just add back in your health. The other thing is the dice bar down at the bottom. Now it defaults to a 1d20, but you can change that to anything and automatically roll. So if I ask somebody to roll 5 times, instead of clicking the roll button 5 times, they can do this, and it'll show the group all the times that you rolled, what you rolled for the value, and then the equal for it. Another thing that you can do here is if you are asked to do just a flat d20 or anything like that, you can do a simple roll by clicking the dice. And sometimes you might have modifiers, which you can just simply type in and it does all the work for you. So that you're not having to try to juggle anything in regards to how many points should you be adding to certain rolls and all of that other stuff. DiceMaster takes care of it for us. Another thing that you can do is you can hold left click. And I've already gone through and I've set up a few basics, and you can add in some of your most commonly used role types. So for my characters, they use melee attack, diplomacy, perception, spell defense. They use all of these types of roles more often than anything else. So I have them on this little bar where I can hover and click through, and what's really fun about this is it'll tell you exactly what you're rolling, and it will add in any modifiers that you have already set up. In order to set that, you just do a right click and it'll take down these drop bars, and you can manually toggle in which ones that you want and leave the ones that you don't. And you click anywhere on the screen to get rid of that drop down box. So, the next things that we're going to talk about is the traits screen. So whenever you left click on the traits screen, it opens up an extra UI frame. Now in this frame, you can go through and you can edit each trait, and we're going to talk about those on a different video. Right now, the most important thing is to talk about your statistics. Now the statistics in DiceMaster are a little bit set, so we're going to use the defaults and modify from there. So the defaults load in with the attributes, the skills, combat actions, and saving throws, which some of our things don't match what's already here, but it's very easily modified. You don't want to mess with any of the attributes. If you delete them, it kind of screws up the whole system. But you can easily delete them, or any of the other skills or headers with just the little stop sign. You can add in any skill that you like. So today, for the example, I'm going to add in Kanatu's knowledge modifiers, and we'll show you how to do that. And we'll add a header and kind of all that other stuff. So when you look at your character sheet, you're going to find your dexterity and your constitution and all of those other things that have additional modifiers to them, a small number beside it. So in order to edit that, you just click on the 0 here, and it'll automatically highlight, and you can do a number. And just hit enter after the fact. Ooh, that's not an enter. And it'll automatically add in for you. So you can roll for a test, and sure enough, I got my +5 here, so it's working properly. Now, some skills are directly affected by your attributes. So what DiceMaster also does is, in those cases, it automatically includes the intelligence, which I have a +5 in, with whatever you're rolling for. So, let's see, knowledge is associated with intelligence. So, you're going to go through on knowledge modifier, and let's say we have a +3, and we're going to hit enter. And it does the math for you. So it takes your knowledge modifier of a +3, and it adds it to your intelligence modifier of a +5, and it gives you that +8, and it rolls for you, adding that number in. So that's all really fun, and it's really easy to keep track of, but you need to be careful to make sure that you're adding your modifiers into the correct place so that you're not accidentally pulling numbers that you shouldn't be. So let's go through, and we're going to add in a new section, and we're going to call it Knowledge Proficiencies. So you just go anywhere that you want to add it in, and you add, and it's going to ask you a couple of things. The first thing it's going to ask you is if you want to tie it to a attribute that's already existing. In most cases, we're going to not tie any of our additions into an attribute. These are going to be standalone pieces. And you type in your name here. So for Kanatu, I have his stuff saved here. Oh, I've got an update. And we're going to say that we're looking at Sunwalker Faith and Practices. Now, there is a character limit on this, so if I go much further than this, it's going to tell me that it's too long. And we're just going to leave it at this. I know what it stands for, and anybody who's rolling will understand what it stands for. I don't need and practices there. So I can create this statistic, and it adds it down here at the bottom. But it's really hard to find because it's not a skill, it's not a combat action, it's not a saving throw. And it's just kind of lumped down here at the bottom. So what we're also going to do is we're going to add in a header. So knowledge proficiencies, and it will prevent you from adding multiple headers of the same term. So you can't just say knowledge. It'll say you already have one of those created, even though it's a skill, right? So we're going to create header with the knowledge proficiencies, and it adds a new header, and you can easily move them up and down, which is a little bit of a pain in the butt, but it gets the job done. And move it down here, and we have Sunwalker Faith. And Kanatu, I know, has a +5 in Sunwalker Faith. Now, when you roll, it's not attached to anything. So you can just have the +5 there, and it's not going to pull in intelligence or anything like that. This is also where we're going to talk a little bit about companions and how to add in companion statistics in a later video. So that's where we'll go into this pet screen and kind of work with that. So I hope that this kind of quick walkthrough was sufficient and helped some people out with some things. And we'll talk to you next time.